Ashton Genty, the 2,500-yard rusher and Heisman runner-up, taking on James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions, who don't exactly always show up to the biggest games. That's kind of the reputation.
And the Ducks are going to quack their way to the Big Ten championship.
Penn State is always a really solid team, but you're just waiting for the James Franklin effect. You're waiting for somehow them to mess it up and blow something or do poor clock management or just bad decisions down the stretch, like when he was getting blown out by Michigan and kicked a field goal to make it like a 25-point game.
You're playing for cosmetics, not to try to win the game. You're down 28-0. Up and good. Well, the zero's gone.
Well, Penn State definitely did not have a letdown against Boise. They held Ashton Genty to his lowest total of the season, just 105 yards on 30 carries. That guy's just so talented, though. It's like everybody knows that they're just going to hand it to him as many times as they can, and it's still hard to stop him. He's so shifty. He's got great vision. He breaks tackles.
Look, we said something had to give, right? It was either Penn State was going to crack and let Ashton get loose, or Penn State was going to wear down Boise with their two-headed monster. And you saw Singleton and Allen, they're a load.
If you've been watching Penn State for a while, then you know that they have two stud running backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. Those guys combined for over 200 yards and a score, and they averaged over 7 yards a carry. That, my friend, is the recipe for a win. You know, the Broncos actually led in the time of possession by a lot, and they had more total yards than Penn State, but they also had more penalties.
But in your mind, what, if anything, did Boise State prove last night?
They proved that they're a very good football team, but they failed miserably, Greeny, on the biggest stage. And they had more miscues. They had more penalties than any team they have had in 20 years. They couldn't kick field goals. The mistake I think that we have in this system is they should have had to play on the road in the first round, and that would have settled whether they belong or not.
And they had 4 turnovers, and you just can't do that against a team that is favored to beat you by 11.5.
There was never one moment where I feared that Boise was going to win this outright, but yet I'm watching and I'm just, like many of you probably were, just like grinding my teeth at thinking this should be out of reach, and it's not, because there is the most obvious concept imaginable in front of you. And if you're Andy Koldenicki and you're this Penn State offensive staff, you are looking everywhere but right in front of you. And right in front of you was Katron Allen averaging, like 8.5 yards per carry, and it was there all night.
It was sloppy, and it was a bit of a clunky game. But the issue is that the reason that Boise was in this game at all is because Penn State allowed them to be in the game. Penn State's game plan was off.
Aller, Singleton, Carter, and Warren. Those are 4-star players. So the idea, can they win a national championship? I don't know. I feel like they're a little bit of a poor man's Ohio State. But again, I mean, how many games in a row can Ohio State play perfect football? There is something to be said. I mean, Ohio State now looks like the world's best team. It is hard to play at this level for that long.
They move on to play the winner of the Sugar Bowl.